Yasos and welcome to Vasily's garden, folks. Well, the silly season is nearly upon us, and I'm referring to spring, not our Christmas holidays, but I'm referring to sowing more seeds. Now, I've been sowing my big Malakas and other tomatoes and capsicums, and I've been monitoring their growth rate because I've got them on a heat mat in the cell trays, the 72 cell tray, the 32 cell tray or 36 cell tray, and 198 cell tray. Now, they're sitting on the heat mat, and I use the planting mix in those, and I'm finding that because, and I've done it before last year and they've all worked out, but what I'm noticing, and I'm paying more attention to them this year, is that there's no air space between the heat mats and the actual cell tray. So when it sits on the mat, there's only one hole at the bottom of the tray for the drainage, and it's not allowing enough airflow, I think. That's just my personal sort of take on it. So what I'm going to be doing, more cell trays later on, and I'll show you those when I do them, but I'm also going to be doing them in these trays here. This is a seedling tray, but what you see I've got here also is a little peat pot, 6 centimetre peat pot, and I've grown them in before, and what this peat pot will do is end up breaking down, becoming a food source for the microbes in the soil and all the good bacteria, and even the worms, because it's a carbon base, and as that decays, it allows for the plant to grow through. So this won't restrict the root system of the seedling. No matter what seedling you're growing, it will allow for the roots to penetrate through the walls. As it hydrates, it starts to decompose. It probably won't break down in the full season, but it will start to pull apart in the ground as the root starts to push out through the walls. So I'm going to sow some more seedlings in this today. And what I've also done here is made a mix. Now, this is our famous planting mix, but I've added another about 30% more cocoa into it, just to make it a little bit more loose, because ideally this is for large pots and the planter grounds, for the planting grounds, that is, raised beds and garden beds. And look, I've done it in seed trays before as seedlings, like you've seen in the planting cells. But I thought, you know what, a little bit more cocoa will probably help it drain better, and we won't have to worry about the bottom draining out. Now, this is porous, and because it's porous, it probably didn't need the cocoa peat added to it. It could have gone straight out with a full planting mix. But I'm going to do it like this for now, and I'm also going to sow some more seeds in the cell tray using the blend of the planting mix and about 30-40% cocoa. It's an average sort of rate that I'm doing, and these are the big Malakas. For those who missed out, I'm not going to be rude, sorry, I haven't got any more. Not for sale as seeds, that is. So I'm going to I've got 24 little peat pots here, so I'm going to sow my seeds into that. And again, when you fill it up, don't press it down. The soil will go down on its own as you add water. That's the sort of compaction rate you'll see over time when water's added to it. But by pressing it down like that for now, I don't think it's a good thing. I think it should be a bit more loose and let nature do it on its own. So just fill it up like that, all the way through, and then we'll sow our seeds. There we go, 24 of them in the seedling tray. And what I like about this seedling tray, imagine if these were plastic pots, right? And they were sitting flat on the ground. That gap between the hole, which is right in the middle of it, not on the side of the pot. If this was a plastic pot, most of them have got a hole in the middle there, especially the cell trays. When that's sitting flat, it's blocking the airflow and the drainage. Yeah, water will find its way through, but it's not enough airflow, I don't think, and it becomes a bit sort of stagnant at the bottom as far as moisture is concerned. But in these trays here, let me just take a couple out to show you what it looks like inside. You can see the rippled base there, so that's a bit of an air pocket allowing the water to drain through freely. It's also a good space for slugs to get in and snails, so be cautious about that, because I always have found them back in the days of the garden centre that slugs somehow just magically appear and sit at the bottom of these pots. So if you're using plastic pots, it's great for drainage. Now in this case here, I'm basically doing everything for no reason other than a trial, because these are porous and they'll breathe all around the pot, and it's got extra cocoa peat, so you didn't really need it. But at the end of the day, that's what I do. I do trials, and I muck around with my seedlings and seeds and plants and see what sort of results I can get, especially with the climate that I have here, which is nothing but sort of being... And let's start. One for you, one for you. Another big Malaka for you, and the big Malaka is right here. That's me. There we go. Now all we're going to do is just lightly press it down like that and cover it over. This is the quickest way I found to be able to cover your seeds. And you'll see a little bit of a coarse particle around in these little mixes, and that's quite okay because they still germinate, they find their way through. It's amazing how a little seed can work out which way is up and which way is down. And once we do this, in the past I said don't use a biostimulant like our Eco Butch. Let me get that bit of twig out of the way, because, well, the research has shown that they don't need it, but we've done more research since, and not me personally, but some great, very intelligent people out there who are right into the biological world of the soil and plants and the microbes. And by adding a biostimulant, you're actually triggering the enzymes, because the seed's already got its DNA coating on the outside, but you're actually triggering everything surrounding it and the microbes, technically anything that's in this planting mix, because it's full of organic matter, to kick off and think, hey, there's a new plant in town, because plants and microbes work together in synergy. The plant feeds the microbes feed the plants. So, in saying that, I've got a mix here. I like doing Greek measurements, but ideally you should use a measuring cup for these. So it's normally 40 mils in 9 litres. If you were to do it at half strength, that's 20 mils in 9 litres. Then divide that by 9, that's about 2 mils, just over 2 mils per litre. So I've got, I think, probably about 4 mils in here. That's my bad, but, and again, this is my bad, my trials, and if I stuff it up, well, you can say, we know why you did, Vasily. So, just hydrating this now. I'm going to go over this twice because I need it to soak through. See how it's already sinking? And I want it to soak right through to the bottom. And eventually, when the mixture itself, the planting mix, is hydrated enough, it'll start to moisten the walls, surrounding walls, which is the Coco peat, or sorry, the peat pots in this case. And you want that to be hydrated as well. And then to know whether this planting mix or mixture, or let's just say the seed that's growing in here, whether it needs another watering, you'll be able to tell by the dehydration of the cocoa or the actual wall, the peat pots themselves, because they will start to go light in colour as they are now. So I'll give you an example of what it would look like when it's hydrated, and I'm sure many of you have seen that before. See how it just darkens up like that? So it'll just hydrate like that, and when it dehydrates, it'll absorb the moisture off the walls into the soil, into the planting mix, and then the pot will dry itself out and it'll look grey or light tan colour again. So that means you need to hydrate it. One other thing you can do, because these are breathable pots, and that's what you want, breathable pots, because you get a good even airflow through it, what you can do is sit them in a saucer or a tray of water so that it can wick up the moisture it needs as it needs it. Now, as a seed, it hasn't put out its first root system yet, and the peat itself inside the cocoa peat will actually absorb and wick upwards for it. But that's a real simple way to keep them hydrated without bogging them down, because they breathe. I wouldn't recommend you do that with plastic pots, because they need to breathe through, because the pot itself, the plastic walls, aren't obviously porous, and that way you can end up causing a bit of a smelly or stagnant sort of soil and cause the seed itself to actually rot out before it germinates. For those who are struggling with germinating seeds, well, try some peat pots. Easier way of germinating them with a less likelihood of them rotting out. So peat pots are available on our website. The big Malakas aren't, folks, sorry, but we've got plenty of other seeds, and we have brought them back down to $2 because we've had too many emails asking, they missed out on them. So we've reduced them back to $2 a packet, delivered to your door. Take advantage of them. We'll run until the end of the month. And our planting mix is on sale as everything else is as well. Well, otherwise, go to your local garden centre, support them because they carry our range as well. From me, Vasily, Maresi.